Well. Welcome back to Crown's Crypto Cave, and welcome to this next entry within this psychological series. Today, we'll be talking about something extremely diabolical and something that really doesn't get talked about enough, and this is the topic of success barriers. These are incredibly important to understand because we all deal with it. Everyone, no matter what you're doing, in all sorts of different venues, no matter if it's trading, no matter if it's learning, whatever skill it can be, we all experience just success barriers in general. And understanding this sort of mechanism in our brain is incredibly important to really making that next step for a lot of people. And usually this kind of conversation comes about when someone, is speaking with me, and usually they're like in the program or something like that. And they'll say, hey, Crown, I've been doing this for about a year now. The last 6 months, I've been profitable. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling strong, but I'm afraid to take that next step. How do I take this next step? I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like I don't deserve it. But like I said, I've also been proving to myself that I can have success for the past 6 months. And I say, okay, yes, if you've been having success for the last 6 months, you're probably more or less fine. At the end of the day, proving to yourself that you can actually do it is the first step. But understand that we have this very, 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 very primordial and in some ways diabolical mechanism on our brain that kind of almost prevents us and makes us feel anxiety when we take a step outside of our current reality. In this case, to the upside, in a more upwards way. So we call it a success barrier. Of course, there's barriers in other ways as well, but we're going to be focusing on this one today. And the big thing here is that with your brain kind of always pinging upon its current environment, it wants to make sure that everything's staying the same. What it's doing is it's trying to, first and foremost, make sure that you stay alive, and second, make sure that you reproduce, and third, in a little bit of a lesser way, actually just as an important way, it wants to conserve as much energy as possible. So with all of those three things in mind, kind of in a hierarchy, that's going to be kind of marking off of all of our primordial and more innate, intrinsic emotions, emotional responses to these sorts of things. And even when you do have a conscious understanding of these sorts of things, you still feel them. You'll just understand that, oh, I'm feeling that success barrier once again. It's time to actually push on through. And so with that, to kind of understand the problem, the mechanism in our brain is always kind of pinging off the surrounding environment. It wants to know where we stand, and it wants to know if anything's changing, more importantly, that keyword changing. And of course, when you're trying to become a trader, when you're trying to do this as a lifestyle, especially if you're switching up from, whatever job that you might have right now into trading, that's going to be a major topic of potential dissonance within your brain, because something quite literally is changing. Your lifestyle is changing. So it's going to feel innately, its first response is going to feel anxiety because it doesn't know if that's going to be a positive change. Your brain is already surviving. It's already reproducing, whether it's synthetically through means of the internet or actual action. And at the same point in time, you're conserving energy as you are by just staying the same, right? To actually change takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of conscious effort, takes a lot of energy, and that your brain is going to want to avoid in some, not in the worst way, but it does want to avoid that. So you're fighting against all those sorts of things. But how do you make the change? You feel the anxiety, you feel that constant nagging in the back of your brain is like, is what I'm doing right? Am I on the right path here? Am I doing anything wrong? And then of course, this is not even to get into a whole nother topic with your surrounding environment, which they're all going to have their own feelings of that, their own insecurities based off that as well. So that can just really confound the whole problem. But first start with yourself. And so when we're starting with ourselves, we really have to realize that we are fighting against a more innate feeling in our brain. It's there for a good reason, but in this modern day and age, are we really, battling a life and death situation if we were to say change a career or learn a new skill or just do anything different, step out of our current reality? No, it's a pretty safe modern environment. You don't really have to worry about like fucking predators outside or people coming over and it just I guess like killing you or whatever the fuck it might be, that people had to deal with way back in the day. We don't really have those issues anymore. We have laws, we have personal, rights and all that good stuff. So there's really like no real major cause for concern in the way that your brain kind of interprets it. It's just your brain doesn't know how to differentiate between those two things because that kind of is the modern dilemma, the modern struggle. As I look at over my computer right over here, there we go. Never mind. Anyways, my point is that getting to the actual issue and how to move forward from this success barrier, not just understanding it, because we probably already have a good idea of what it is. How do we actually move through it? Well, this is one of those things where the answer that I'm going to give you, or the best answer that I can really find or that I can come up with, is maybe the most important thing that I've learned with regards to anything, and that is, at some point in time, you just need to do the action. You just need to move forwards. You can feel the fear, you can feel the anxiety, you can feel the resistance to change, whether it is even a successful way or not, and then move forwards. So let me give you this example right here. This is almost in a way the same thing as explaining to someone who is holding a pen, for example, how to drop the pen. They come up to you and they say, hey, I have a pen in my hand and I don't want it in my hand any longer. I'd like to change this. How do I do it? And you look at them and you say, you just drop it. You just do it. You just fucking do it. And I know that at the outset probably doesn't really make even all of that much sense, or maybe even help all that much. But understand the downwards effects of something like that. When you actually take the action, what are you doing? You're telling your brain that the reality that has changed after that is going to be fine. I mean, assuming that when you drop the pen, like the world doesn't fucking fall apart. You get my point though. In this scenario, gonna be okay. And so, in that sort of way, once your brain has proof, not promises, it will accept that reality and it will no longer block you from feeling those emotions with regards to it. Now, of course, is it just that simple where you just do it, once and it's done? No, it's probably going to take, combined effort over a relatively long period of time, 3 weeks probably at the very least. But over time, just trust in the process. And you'll notice that that's really a common theme of a lot of these psychological videos. There is a process to learning this, and it does pretty much follow concurrently with just about all the different, venues that we kind of deal with in learning this and in taking this on as a more, lifestyle adventure. So when it comes down to it, again, the idea is to actually do it. At some point, you actually have to do it and just trust that once your brain sees, hey, you're okay. It's all good. Nothing's changed. No, you're not dying or anything like that. It will switch up to allow your emotions to catch up, and always understand that there's like a trifecta of things governing us, or there's a trifecta of things that we can do that will propel this sort of growth. We can train our thoughts, which is kind of what we're doing right here on a video like this. We can train our actions, which is, what you do in like perhaps one of the programs where you're actually, trading and learning it actively. And then the third component is emotions, which of course takes a lot longer, because our thoughts and actions, we can do that immediately. You can start thinking, you can start taking action right now, today. But the emotions, which is what this kind of issue is governed off of, the topic of success barriers, that is something that will catch up over time. And like I said, usually in my experience and from what I've seen with people, it usually takes about 3 weeks. Some people a little bit less, some people a little bit more. Really just depends on how kind of open you are as a person to begin with, and just how dedicated you truly are to that. And also just, of course, there is a reason why we have these barriers to kind of keep you in place, because you are surviving. So if something were to like legitimately happen poorly to you, then yes, it's going to probably prolong the process, but you get my point. Especially in this day and age, learning just about anything in this venue, like a skill like this, you're not really fighting that life or death battle as your brain might have played it out to be, aeons and aeons ago. But understand that we're still dealing with the conditioning that we've had, ever since we became anatomically modern Homo sapiens, which was, whatever, hundred thousands of years ago. My point is that we're dealing with conditioning that goes way far back, deep into our roots, which is not something that we're going to be getting away anytime soon. Even if you're like the most enlightened monk sitting in a cave in Tibet or wherever the fuck that they sit. Still going to take some time. There is still a process to it. And realistically, the idea is not to fully avoid these emotions or just not even have them. It's to understand that you can work through them. You can work through them, and then trust in the process that over time, it'll slowly but surely just erode. It'll just erode. So understanding that whole process is one of the biggest things that I've really come to, because most of the time, the only thing that separates someone from someone who is where they want to be from another person who is, doing the same, having the same aspirations, but not where they want to be, is quite literally just taking action. It's quite literally just taking action. That person fucking did it. That's all they did. And realistically, when we talk about something like success barriers, the real answer, the only real actionable answer, which will provide results over time, is to quite literally just do it. So if you are in the, if you are in the mindset of doing this, in the context of becoming a professional trader, like as a lifestyle. Now, speaking directly to the topic here, you'll probably go through that first initial feeling where it's like, can I really do this? You prove it to yourself, after about 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years for some people, whatever it ends up being. And you can see the results, on paper. Once you have that in front of your face, now you actually have real proof. And perhaps, you do that at the same time as like having another job or something like that. Of course, I don't want to make like the whole leap all at one time, just in case some, were to go poorly, of course. You don't want to put any more pressure on yourself than need be. So my point is start off small. As your brain gets more and more proof, as it sees more and more, as it gets more and more experience, just more proof in line with where you're going towards, it will naturally catch up. But it's slower. It's slower to catch up than your thoughts and actions, which can train immediately. But that is why changing in general is so difficult, is because we're really fighting against ourselves in a sense. We're really fighting against ourselves, and your body doesn't want to change. If you're surviving right now, it quite literally doesn't want to change. It doesn't have any real incentive to. I know that sounds crazy. You could say this for like someone who's living in the fucking dumpster, but at the end of the day, that's how your body is interpreting it. So until you make a conscious effort to make one of these changes and really follow through with the process, these things can't really be beaten until you actually do that. So action needs to be taken. And so you can see how all three of these things do have interplay with each other, but you really have to trust in the process for the third component of it, because it's naturally slower. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Again, that's the topic of success barriers. To kind of just wrap it up, basically we deal with success barriers because we want to want to conserve our energy. We want to not change as long as we're surviving and reproducing, whether it be synthetically or whether it be in realism. That's all our bodies truly care about. So any sort of change outside of that realm will naturally incite some anxiety, as your body does not want to spend the extra energy in order to make that change. So the only way to make a change in this venue, a positive direction, is to first train your thoughts and actions. Those can happen immediately, and then trust that over time your emotions will catch up as long as you have the proof of it. So a more actionable route for this would be to first don't actually make the switch. Just give yourself proof that you can actually be profitable over a long period of time, whatever that is for you, whatever is needed for you. I would say 6 months is probably pretty good. A year, even better. Anything more than a year is great, but at some point in time, there's going to be a time where it's no longer prove it to me. It is take action and actually do it, and that's the only way to make that next step. So to really go back into that analogy of dropping the pen on the floor, how do you drop a pen on the floor? You just do it. You just fucking do it. So that's really what it really comes down to at the end of the day. Trust in the process that over time your emotions will catch up, and once your body sees that it's all good and actually, in fact, in a better reality, and in many ways as well, it will then start to go on the same side as you and actually provide you with the same emotional responses to make that whole lifestyle more consistent and more just, I suppose, effortless, as all your body's processes get in line with that. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. I would like to wish you well, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.